taking up a 2-year residency at the Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas.
It did feel like something was up. And that did inform a lot of why I poured myself into this movement.
It feels kind of illegal doing this with this mic in my hand right now. They did like my voice.
It sounded like just like her.
See, I don't know.
Wait, Britney had advanced people come scope out the place?
Yeah.
Britney Spears cancels her Las Vegas residency show due to a family crisis.
Of the new documentary Framing Britney Spears, put together by the New York Times, people are calling for Diane Sawyer to apologize to Britney Spears for an interview she did with Britney in 2003.
Yeah, some of the interview is included in the documentary that Diane conducted for 2020, and some think that Diane was badgering Britney with her questioning, including the late.
He was gone on television and pretty much said, you broke his heart. You did something that caused him so much pain, so much suffering. What did you do?
I was upset. I was upset for a while. I think we were both really young, and it was kind of waiting to happen. And I will always love him. He'll always have a special place in my heart. He is such a great person.
But you said, I've only slept with one person in my whole life, 2 years into my relationship with Justin. And yet he's left the impression that you weren't faithful, that you betrayed the relationship.
I think everyone has a side to their story, and to make them feel a certain way, and make them feel, and I'm not technically saying he's wrong, but I'm not technically saying he's right either. So I just was really awkward.
You've had a year that would test a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Illness in the family.
Mm-hmm.
A breakup. This spasm of publicity about what happened from Mexico to London.
It was pretty rough, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Weird. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hello. Ew. Strong Britney. Yeah, it was a weird. Ew. I'm embarrassed. Can we?
She has always seemed very young to me anyway, but there she was a baby. She was just, a little girl. And it's like it doesn't seem appropriate to talk to a little girl with that tone.
Yeah, and I guess to me, where's the team on her side to go? No, you agree, Elaine? Yeah. Where's the team to go? No, we're not doing this right.
Whoever was her manager at the time should have gone and said, no, this just isn't, and they should have seen the questions beforehand.
Okay, lots of comments. A lot of people are split over this. Evan says she should apologize to her. Beebing says Diane really dug into Britney. Wow. Jeff says that's very shameful. She should have apologized to Britney. That was cringeworthy. Shame on you, Diane Sawyer. Nelson says perfectly okay interview. Jeff says Diane was just doing her job. Roz, what do you think?
Hey, listen, I watched the documentary and so much of it seems so new. And I had forgot so much of how Britney was treated. And I think that the reason I forgot it was because it was just so normal at the time. And it just didn't stick in my head because it was just everyone. And I don't know the circumstances of that interview. The one thing that I do know is that Britney forever has had people around her that she shouldn't have had around her. And so that interview may have been set up by her people to be exactly what we saw on television. And I think that, you know, people need to apologize. And if we're looking for Diane Sawyer to apologize, I think she's probably one of a long list of people in Britney's life at that time that should be apologizing to Britney. But the documentary was horrifying. And, you know, that line of questioning and the way that people treated her, you know, I've been asked to go in rooms at that time and ask people similar things. And, you know, I feel awful about it. I really do. And that's how we earned a living at that time, was talking to people about truly awful things. And you would bring it back to the studio and you would get a high five for it. And that was considered a dynamite interview. You know, I'm sure Diane Sawyer's team were elated over that interview. Oh my God, you got her to cry. That was such good television. And you watch it now and you put it all together in that documentary and people were horrific. And the fact that she was so gracious while being low-key attacked over and over and over again is a miracle.
Yeah, for the longest time I've been on a free Britney movement train for sure. And it's been difficult the last few years just from the outside looking into this situation with Britney and being like, how is this okay? Like, how come no one's saying anything? And then with this documentary, and I agree with you, Roz, it's been normalized. It's almost like journalists and TV hosts and whatnot at the time, they were normalizing trolling. They were low-key like trolling these stars, trying to get these bites. And I understand, you know, when you do Diane Sawyer, you know she's going to ask those questions. She's going to try to invoke emotion in you. That is what you're signing up for. My biggest issue, you know, Diane Sawyer is one thing. At that moment, she was doing her job. Could she have been a little bit more empathetic? Could she have chilled out on the "are you cheating" questions? She could have asked it a lot kinder. But she was doing what she felt was her job at the time. My real concern is this just proves to me that Britney's team from day one has always been a mess. You see it in her very first video, the way that she was sexy, but it was, you know, schoolgirl sexy, and it kind of played with the line and it pushed the envelope. And if you kept looking at all of her work after the fact, they just kept pushing things and kept pushing a narrative with Britney. And I just feel like she got put in this cage, so to speak. She's still in that cage. She's a grown-ass woman. She's still in that cage today. And I feel like they put her in a cage and they've just been poking at her since then. And I just have a tough time watching it. I think everybody owes her apology, and I think she just deserves to be freed. She's totally still not free.
Zoe says Diane is a journalist. She's supposed to ask questions. Marna says media has matured but still needs to change. Nick says that interview was cringy. I don't know. I don't really have a problem with the questions that Diane asked, because both Justin had, you know, done Cry Me a River. Britney had done Every Time, Every Time, I think that song was called. That was supposed to be about a relationship. So it seemed like fair game to ask. I find it odd to ask someone, you know, how many times have you had sex? It's a very odd thing. I know there's a huge thing in Britney's narrative that people would ask her, you know, she's still a virgin. Have you had sex with Justin? Like, that was very odd. But I don't mind the questions that Diane asked. I don't think it was out of line. But like I said, like, it's odd that was the line of questioning that was allowed in that interview. But I mean, it just shows you how much things have changed in 17 years. Like, another part of that interview, Diane is just grilling Britney about the Madonna kiss on the VMAs. Like, now 2 women kissing is nothing. And even they have a clip of Bette Midler, who is a huge advocate for the LGBTQ community. She's attacking Madonna and Britney for kissing, because kids would have been watching that. So I mean, that's how far we've come in 17 years. That's how much things have changed. So it is odd that, you never have that line of questioning now. But I don't really think Diane was out of line. Like Sharon Osbourne says, Britney Spears wasn't a child there. She was 22 years old. I mean, Sharon's calling her a little girl. I mean, at 22 years old, you're not a little girl. You can talk about Britney's maturity, but I mean, she's 22 years old. So I don't think Diane Sawyer was questioning a little girl in that interview.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, and I think that the reality is this: for me anyway, is you know, we can all say that somebody was doing their job, and we can, you know, try and rationalize it any way we want, but This was 2020, and this is like the sort of peak of news. There was at the time 60 Minutes, there's 2020. This is a massive news organization. And you send Diane Sawyer in, and she puts a line of questioning together in the same way that she would a world leader or somebody who's running for office. And it should never have been on the show. It should never have, somebody should have said, do we want to make a 22-year-old pop star cry? Is that what we are? And everybody in the room said yes. And they all thought it was great television. This should never have even been on 2020.
Yeah, I mean, two things. One, I struggle with any child star, any teen star that has to grow up in the music industry, has to grow up in the limelight. I totally empathize with that. I think that you got to protect them at all costs, because there are certain things that they miss out on. There's certain experiences they have. They're sped through life in a different way. And when you're going through your awkward phase, you shouldn't be getting criticized and magnified the way that she was. She didn't get a chance to just be young and enjoy her life in that way. And I feel like she's still not getting a chance now to be an adult. I agree, she's 22. I also think that, Diane Sawyer doing her job. But I feel like as a journalist, as an interviewer, the goal is never to be judgmental. It's never to have an opinion about the person or what you think is right or wrong. It's really asking the questions to get the answers to allow the audience to make a judgment. I felt like in that interview, when I'm looking at it back, the way that she even just put it, like, people, he said, he only slept with one person. It was very like, there was judgment in it. There's no way you can't say there wasn't. She's an incredible interviewer. Diane Sawyer is incredible, and I look up to her so immensely. But I think in this equation, she could have been a little bit more empathetic. It's just the way that you ask the questions. And you could see the fact that Britney was about to cry, and she's like, oh my God, oh, look, oh, ooh. That just shows like her maturity, her emotional intelligence in that way. She's not in a place where she can just cry and feel comfortable. She's visibly uncomfortable. But again, if it's anyone's fault, it's her team.
Yeah,
really at the end of it.
And that, that's just the thing. You wouldn't conduct that interview like she did in 2021. You just wouldn't.
No.
It's not true. Tell me I've been lied to. Crying innocent lie. What the hell did I do? Never been the type to let someone see right through. Maybe